Happy Father's Day. Oh my goodness. I've been shopping. To be a father is an opportunity to be a hero. And I have to tell you that we're just people. And we aspire to be heroes, but we don't always make it 100%. Although the attempt is there, and it's inspired by our children. Julia was probably the greatest inspiration that I've ever had. When she was born,
my dad was a hero.
I knew that children came directly from God when Julia was born. I didn't know that until then. And it wanted me, I had the desire to be all that I could be. It made me want to be a better person. Where'd all my notes go? My goodness. From Spirit. Oh. So it's a day to celebrate our human fathers. Those who were instrumental in getting us here to this plane. And also it's a good day to celebrate our Heavenly Father, the Papa Principle. Now why God as Father? I mean, why not auntie, uncle, our cousin who art in heaven? There's no reason why not. But it turns out that our tradition comes from the Jewish tradition, which is a really old tent. It goes way, 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 way back, and it was a patriarchal community society. The belief was that God, the Father, was the provider and the protector of mankind, and then in Jesus' experience, his father, Joseph, was already dedicated to the understanding of the mysteries of what they knew as God. So his father was a role model for all the good things that you could imagine a father could be. He was truly an enlightened being. From the Essene tradition, they were Jewish, but they kind of kept to their own self because they had a tradition of diving deeper than the average person in the community would be. So they stayed together as a self-supporting community. So Joseph was an Essene master. He was an enlightened, awakened being, self-actualized, however you want to call it. So, I mean, what a dad he had. So Jesus, he spoke in those terms. But if you look back, there's a lot of history that show this, that, and the other thing. But there is evidence that Jesus was actually a woman. There's number one, he fed a multitude when there was virtually nothing available, and he spent his time trying to explain to men who just didn't get it. And third, even though he was dead, he had to get up because there was still work to be done. So Joseph was an awakened Essene master. And I have to tell you that, a lot of this information is available, but it's not readily available. You have to dig for it. And diving deeper. So regarding the Creator itself, now we know that God is a woman. We know that God is a man. And we know that God is both. And we know that God is neither. So we're using language to express something, to express a unity within a dualistic world. A world that says, no, it's this or that. Well, it's all of it. It is, God is woman, God is man, God is both, God is neither, God is omnipresent, a unified field of coherent, omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient consciousness. That's what we are, because when God went out to make something, she didn't have Home Depot to go and get material. Everything that was created out of itself. So all we are is God. And that is the genius. That is the genius of God, which, this morning has been leading up to, hello, young feller. So here we have God is expressed as children, but I tell you, they are massive spiritual beings. They're as big, the bodies kind of fool you, but these folks, they are wholly present. So the genius of God is that it's only one thing. It's everything. It's you and me, and it's everybody here. It's the mountains, it's the trees, it's the grass, it's everything. And yet, it remains one thing. It's something that is able to create an infinite amount of expression of form and still remain one thing. That is the genius of God, which is not out there. It's within here, because we are a unified field, right? Yep. I mean, Charlotte does that when she's praying. She kind of hops like that. I noticed that last week. Jesus had an awesome dad. Much of what we've learned, I've discovered off the beaten path. I got to not tap my chest because that's where the microphone is. So my research has been off the beaten path, roads less traveled, not necessarily mainstream. So one of my teachers in particular, Judith Coates, which is the reason I came to this area in the first place, I had been studying and teaching something called The Way of Mastery, published by Shanti Christo for years. And I was told in the group amongst people that, a bunch of weirdos, all they think about is, what did Jesus say? And it's like, there are approximately, as far as we know, approximately 2,000 people on the earth right now, all over the world, through whom Jesus is speaking. When they said, and there happens to be one in Washington, her name is Judith Coates. And I thought, well, I got to see this, So I came up here and I found out that it's the real deal. She's been doing this for 35 years. And I thought, oh my goodness. And her husband, Tom, had been a Unity minister for his whole life. So this isn't, they were raised in this and in the Unity understanding. And then so when Judy started channeling, this wasn't something out of the blue. It was something that fit right into the direction that we as humanity are going. And that in New Thought, which Unity is a big part of, there is an ever-emerging awakening. There's very little, I would say, dogma that is not eventually enlarged into a greater understanding of who and what we are. That's the wonderful thing about that I think that Unity represents. And I learned about Unity from going to the 100th Congress of the International New Thought Alliance down in Phoenix in August. That's how they kept you indoors. It was 117 outside. And so the people that spoke, many of them were Unity ministers, knocked my socks off. These people were like, they got it. And there were others that were involved that also New Thought. Barbara King, who was a protege of Johnny Coleman, who was the one who broke the race barrier in Unity. When Johnny Coleman was studying to be a minister at Unity Village, she couldn't spend the night there. She was not allowed as a black woman to spend the night in Unity Village. And when she got enough support from her fellow students to say, hey, this gal, she's got it. Let's open up a little bit. And that happened. So this year, the International New Thought Alliance is happening at Unity Village. I would love to go, but there's some things I need to take care of. I need a roof over my head and a few things like that. So anyway, so not many of us have had a dad like Jesus. I mean, we've had across the board, all of, we know either have had a variety of experiences with our own father, or we know someone who has had experiences that were less than, maybe dad didn't do quite as well as he might have done. That was the best he could do. My father's father was a loving, kind, dedicated, hardworking family man. What a blessing. My mother's father was the opposite. So well do I know the lasting seeming damage someone can do in a child's life when they are acting less than what they could. And I've been in primary relationships where the partner I was with had a father who traumatized them because of something that was maybe less than perfect, even though when I met them, they seemed like wonderful people. But apparently, alcoholism and, the cultural pressures that men face, sometimes they don't lend to the best father role. Not that so we know this is so. So that's why part of what I wanted to talk about is forgiving our fathers, because there's room for that. Even my dad, who was a prince, to me, in my experience, he still had work to do. So what this is doing is evoking memories of your fathers, my fathers, your friends' fathers, partners' fathers, and what are the tools that Jesus gave us here? Now, I want to express, how do we deal with this stuff that's going on or had gone on? The tools that we have are affirmation and denial. I am that, or I'm not that. I am perfect, whole, and complete. And despite any appearances to the contrary, our fathers were perfect, whole, and complete. And along with, what's the big tool that Jesus gave us, along with celebration? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Now, these tools, we have to know they're available, and we have to use them, and we have to know how to use them. Which kind of reminds me of Uncle Jed when they first came out with chainsaws, and he went into the hardware store. He's looking at the salesman, says, "You can cut 6 cords of wood a day with this thing." And Jed says, "Oh, man, the best I ever could do is 2 cords. He says, "Try it, you'll love it." So Jed comes back a couple days later. He's all bedraggled and covered with sawdust. He says, "Best I could do with this thing was 3 cords a day. You said I could cut 6. And the salesman says, "Let me see that thing." And he takes the chainsaw, he pulls the cord. Jed jumps back. "What's that noise?" So you got to know how to use the tool. What to do with. So this big tool, forgiveness, which has a lot to do with surrender and waking up to the fact that our fathers and mothers, they were just people. I mean, they were magical in our lives as children, but at some point we have to realize, these are folks, doing the best they can. And sometimes the best they could wasn't the best they could. But the buck stops here, right? I mean, we are the leading edge of God consciousness for us. Because like Big Brother says, low, not there, and low, not here, but God is within. So as we take responsibility for our own lives, there's a movie that I really loved, and it really, the most powerful, one of the ones that I would say is the most powerful, a movie called Smoke Signals, came out in the 90s, written by Sherman Alexie. And in that movie, at the end, he has this character, Thomas builds the fire. And he says a quote that kind of wraps up the whole movie. And the movie basically is about forgiving our fathers. And you have to see it. But what Sherman Alexie has Thomas Builds the Fire say is, how do we forgive our fathers? Maybe in a dream. Do we forgive our fathers for leaving us too often or forever when we were little? Maybe for scaring us with unexpected rage or making us nervous because there never seemed to be any rage there at all. Do we forgive our fathers for marrying or not marrying our mothers? For divorcing or not divorcing our mothers? And shall we forgive them for their excesses of warmth or coldness? Shall we forgive them for pushing or leaning? For shutting doors or speaking through walls? For never speaking or never being silent? Do we forgive our fathers in our age or in theirs? Or in their deaths, saying it to them or not saying it? If we forgive our fathers, what is left? So the main Papa principle that Brother Jesus taught us was forgiveness of ourselves and others. Not so much for our multitude of errors, but primarily for the grandest illusion of all, that we are, or could be, separate from our Creator, and therefore from each other and all of creation. Now when you look, this takes some time to contemplate. Next time you go to the ocean or to the mountains or Lake Crescent, stop and realize when you look at what you're looking at, I am that. That is you. There is no separation. Now, energetically, there is no separation. But again, that's the genius of God who created this illusion of separation so we could play. That was the whole point. So we could play to the depth of our imagination. So coming back, waking up, coming back, all doubt and fear, spring forth from the belief in separation, or what I call not God. As if that could be a reality. And Jesus pointed the finger to reality, and people worship the finger instead of the truth. The messenger instead of the message. The message is within. And when you point to the moon and say, look at the moon, does everybody look at your finger? No, they look at the moon. The message is, I and my Father are one, and so are you. The same as it's been all along. I and the Mother are one. We are all some part of God, born divine, born worthy. What I call God lives in you, as you, beyond religion, even beyond what I call spiritual. It's simply reality. We shift, and our perception changes. This is called transformation, and which is a lovely thing. It's fun if you want to have it be fun. So it'll never be enough to know about Jesus, or Baha'u'llah, or Lao Tzu, or Muhammad, or Krishna. We must come to know as they know, the exquisite joy of being. Simply put, now is the only time we will ever truly know. And now is our time to awaken to our divine nature, one with all creation. The awakening from the dream of separation is already in progress, folks. The second coming is occurring now. And there's no going back. There's no cashing your ticket back in. The train has already left the station. We are on board. There's no more pretending that we don't know what we know. And the message, of course, is as simple as it ever was. I and my Father, Mother, Creator are one, and so are you. This is the thing that Jesus taught that a lot of people didn't believe it, still don't believe it, is that No preparations are needed. There is nothing to wrap up, no accounts to settle. Nothing needs to be done. Just a willingness to be what we already are. Powerful, playful, unlimited love. So as we claim and embody this message of oneness, we come to know the masters, Jesus and others, as they truly are, like us. We are the second coming, awakening to the one presence and one power that extends itself through us and as us. My printer is no longer available, so thank goodness I still know how to use a pencil. So this is why I have said, and I say, you are your own authority. You are one of God. Not small, not limited by anything outside of yourself. Is that true? Affirmation, you know. But the thing about us together is that we support each other as a community. As we're diving deeper into our own consciousness, we have somebody that we can talk to. Somebody that can say, yeah, I get that, you know. I never heard it in quite those words, but I get it. So humanity is awakening from a deep slumber. And you and I are part of that awakening. These are pretty cool times. Now is your time to awaken, to remember your divine nature, to realize the God of your heart as the essence and foundation of your very being. Look, people like me will come and go. Churches, nations, planets come and go. But you, let this sink in. You are forever. This is your moment in eternity. Defined not even by the number of breaths that you take, but by the moments that take your breath away. You are God at play. You are not alone. Your angels, guides, and loving friends are legion. So back to the Papa principle. The archetypal father who resides in the subconscious as the protector and the provider, essentially a human metaphor for the supreme being, which is akin to humankind's prior worship of Ra, the sun god, the supreme celestial power. Now, I didn't realize how closely and deeply these first cause symbols were ensconced within my own subconscious until my father, whom I loved dearly, made transition. And when he did, I had tried to prepare myself for that. And all the classes and studying and meditation and all the, the ideas I would help my father across the veil into the next, that all went out the window. I just was devastated. And so, but I was aware. I suffered, I grieved consciously. I allowed myself to feel what I had to feel. And then from then on, every time I would go to sleep, every single time, I would start to dream. I had this recurring dream where the sun would disappear from the sky. Either it would be there and then clouds would come in and obscure the clouds, or there would be a clear sky and then the sun would just blink out. And this kept happening, and I thought, oh, something's going on here. And then one time, for the first time, I was dreaming. I was on the dock of the bay at San Francisco Bay, and the sun was about to set, and for the first time in that dream, there were other people in it. And I could hear people, and the sun was going down, and it went out, it blinked out, and I could hear people behind me saying, the sun, it's gone. And I turned around in the dream, and I saw a friend who was very a woman of high consciousness, standing there, and I could see sunlight reflected from her face. And at that moment, I became lucid in the dream. I was more awake than I am when I'm awake. I knew I was sleeping. I was still dreaming, but I was aware of that. I was highly conscious of what was going on. And she said to me, and I said to her simultaneously, I see the sun reflected from your face. And I got it. That was the symbol of God within, shining from her face as she got from me, the God shining from my face towards her, and I just got it. And so at that time I was writing a lot of poetry, and ended up putting in this book A Watercourse Valley that was a collaboration with my daughter. She did the painting and took most of the photographs inside, and Reverend Julia Jones, my baby girl. So I would like to end this with a meditation and read this poem, which is, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and take these words as your own, for it is the intersection of spirit and the deep inner human wisdom that resides in all of us. It's called I Embrace. From the beginning, I have recognized you. From the beginning, I have loved you. You have touched my heart with your presence. The hearth of my soul is lit by your touch, and I am warmed from within. When I hear your voice, I listen with eyes closed and relish the gift, knowing never before, never again, out of eternity into infinity, it is now that I am with you. My light of itself would but fall into an endless void, unreturned. For I know myself by your face, not by mine. You, my beloved, unique in combination of light and dark, love and loss, sorrow and joy, reflect with your face the light of the sun. And I know myself by your face, not by mine, for mine alone has no reflection and no view. There is no I when there is no you. It is thy presence that by grace I embrace. Beloved friends, take these words deeply into your heart, for you are the face of God. I have spoken, and so it is. Now I have been asked to open up the time if anybody has anything they would like to share, or any questions, or anything come up. Anybody have anything to say? Star, do we have a microphone?
I speak loud. But I just didn't want to share something.
I know you guys need to hear me. Yeah, I know, on Zoom. And I have to have notes, even if they're very simple things. So this morning, a dear friend of mine called, and she just got back from a trip to Germany. She went for the D-Day celebration because, one, she does work for Honor Flights and works with veterans and has for years, but mostly because her dad was one of 2 survivors of his company that landed on Utah Beach. So it was very personal. And she was able to go to some of the grave sites for people that he knew that passed. And the whole thing was a 2-week trip where they not only got to this amazing celebration of the memorial of all the people who gave their lives for all of us in the world to have freedom. She also went to Dachau, and she's a very empathetic person. She had a very hard time being in a concentration camp. She also went to the Eagle's Nest, is where Hitler plotted and planned, and for many years, from the 30s on. And they were guided by amazing historical tour guides, and actually met people who lived through some of the times. They're very old, they're at the end of their lives, but she's been working with these veterans for a long time. She just was so moved at the whole thing. And she just said, you know, the biggest lesson for her was we need to remember and honor those who have come before us, who have given their lives and their treasure and their heart so that we can live as free as we are here and throughout the world today. So thank you.
Amen. Yeah.
Anybody else?
My father was in a unit that was one of the liberators of Dachau. Dad never talked about any of that kind of stuff. I had to do my own research. Ruth!
My dad was a big Dane. He came from Denmark and he was 20 years old.
A great Dane?
Yes, he was a great Dane, yeah. Never said a bad word in his life to us kids. Never, 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 never. Was always kind, great big man, always busy. Worked till he was 76 years old. And we had absolutely the most wonderful, loving, and I was my dad's favorite.
I don't doubt it.
You know why? Because I only weighed a little over 3 pounds and 12 inches long when I was born, but I was a healthy little stinker. And just, I don't know, he just adored me. He always made sure I was with him and did things with him and stuff like that. And so I look back on my family and I know God was with us all the time because we had such a wonderful, poor, and wonderful life with my dad and my mom.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah. I think about it all the time.
Well, maybe, unless there's somebody else. Oh,
yeah.
well, there is.
Just thought, you know,
Oh,
I'm being helpful and I want the mic.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you. Not just for your talk today, but for what I've observed in your life and many here of being an example of that kind of good godfather, good father, good grandfather. And thank you for being that. Yeah.
Thank you.
On the theme of D-Day, I'm here because of all the people from America and the Allies that came to liberate my father, who was in the POW camp in Germany, and my mother, who was enslaved on a German farm. So without that energy of self-sacrifice and love that came as a fresh wave into that old energy that was that part of the world at that time,
At that time, yes.
we would all not be here in the way that we are today. So we do need to honor and thank all of the people that made tremendous sacrifices in their lives for us to be here. And then where do we take it from here? What are we willing to do and share and speak and act for the next generations who will be following us? How do we embody love for them who are us. Thank you.
Who are us? Yes. Yeah. You know what? 26 years after the end of World War II, I was hitchhiking through France. I was 18 years old. And I was picked up several times by young German men. And they would take me to a cafe and buy me a beer, and then we'd all pee by the road afterwards, you know? It was okay there. But it was only, what's 26 years anymore? I mean, and we're like, we saw no difference in each other. We were just like, hey, cool. Hi, how are you? You know? And that was the way it could have been and how it should be. So yeah, that's how we do. We be friends. And also, okay, one shameless plug for Diane's new book. Diane Duncan has a new book, just came out hot off the press. It's burning my fingers as I speak. So I'm so looking forward to reading this. So talk to Diane if you're interested in copies.